Welcome to the Taco Cast. I'm Crystal. This is Bill. You're the audience. On our last Taco Cast, we asked viewer suggestions for what you might like us to talk about. Evelyn Grima, I hope I got your name right, suggested that we talk about shift in perceptions from having a life-altering illness, deadly illness, effect on perceptions and family, stuff like that. How we juggle being parents, having a career, friends, families, volunteering, stuff like that. Which we can expand on that, but I can answer that right now. Not well. I don't time management. I have the time management skills of a potato. Very bad.
This is very true.
Yeah. I like to think that I remember things, and that you don't worry about writing it down. I got it. The fact of the matter is, I don't got it. Yeah, I will need to write that down.
We'd also never show up if it wasn't for me.
It's not
anywhere ever.
It's not true.
All right. So, we're talking about how a life illness has changed your perspective.
Yeah.
How has having cancer, a type of cancer, a rare type of cancer, because you're a special person.
I am a special person.
You're so special. Cancer that changed your perspective. How did it change your perspective? And would you like to first tell people what type of cancer you had?
Yes, I had metaplastic carcinoma. It's a very rare form of cancer. It's a mixed tissue type cancer. So you've got carcinoma and sarcomas. You've got skin cancers and tissue cancer. So a metaplastic carcinoma is some of the cells are carcinoma and some of the cells are sarcoma. In my case, some of the cells were skin cells. Some of the cells were ductal cells. So because it's a mixed tissue type, it's notoriously hard to treat, because what treats a sarcoma does not necessarily treat. You scale that back a little bit. Lots of people talk about the cure for cancer. There's probably not ever going to be a cure for cancer, because cancer is multiple diseases. Even one kind of cancer, in my case breast cancer, can be so many different kinds of things. And in my case, I was like, I want two. So it's difficult to treat because there's so many different kinds. In this case, like I said, it's a mixed tissue type. What treats one doesn't necessarily treat the other, and it does have a very low at the 5-year mark, usually about 60% of people with metaplastic carcinoma don't make the 5-year mark. The oncologist that treated me, so I worked with him when I worked in the hospital. I'd worked with him side by side, and actually kind of morbidly, ironically, I used to joke around that I thought he was a really great guy, but I never wanted to see him as a patient. And turns out that I did. Anyways, my case had been taken to tumor board a couple of times, and that's basically, it's kind of what you think it is. It's cancer doctors and surgeons and oncologists, they all get together and they discuss cases. So because it's kind of rare, they'd taken it to tumor board a couple of times. My surgeon actually is the first one who got my permission to take my case to tumor board. My oncologist that I had worked with in a previous capacity was at tumor board when my case was presented, agreed to come out of retirement to be my initial oncologist, and we discussed treatment options. We decided to kind of go nuclear. I did dose-dense chemo, which is a larger than average amount of chemo in a shorter span of time. So, rather than a month between treatments or whatever, I was getting basically like a dose and a half every 3 weeks instead of every 4 or 5 weeks. Um, and I actually probably would have gone through that okay. Probably would have been okay. I was, I wasn't 40 just yet. I was looking at it. It was right over there, but I wasn't 40 just yet. Relatively healthy, So I probably would have been okay, but I had a Metaport put in, and the Metaport got infected. I got septic really quick, really quick. The sepsis, they kind of treat you with nuclear scale antibiotics. The treatment for the sepsis resulted in additional infection, so I spent a fair amount of time in the hospital. It was really draining, and I think that contributed to making the treatment so much harder than it was initially. Where was I going with that? I'm just laying out the whole thing.
Well, I mean, the initial question is, how is a life-threatening illness like cancer, how did that affect your view or, in life and raising children? If you want to go through, read the whole thing off again?
Yeah, no. So...
How did it change your view on life?
I spend a lot more money now. And Bill can attest to that. My cheapskate nature is legendary throughout the family. Put in a lot of overtime, was constantly working. I was... I would see something on TV and I'd be like, I can do that at home for free. Bill and Elizabeth would run for cover because they knew it wasn't going to work out well in the end. But, I did a lot to save money. After cancer treatment, a long time after cancer treatment because the recovery was really hard, I've gotten more free with spending money. What's the point of working all the time and saving all of the money if I'm just going to turn around and be dead in a year? Which sounds morbid, and I'm sorry, but that is kind of my new outlook, is that I could literally be dead tomorrow, so who's going to give a crap if I save $5? That's not my new global outlook, because we do have a mortgage and a phone bill, and those things have to get paid. But I'm making an effort to rein in the cheapskateness, because I've come to recognize that the quality of my life is going to wind up being much more important than the quantity of my life.
Wow. Okay. Would you, I don't think I was ready for that last part.
Sorry.
I'm following along with you. I'm like, yep. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so how do you think it has affected you in rearing, our son versus our daughter? Because our daughter was, in the formative years of her life when you got cancer and tried to, what was it you said about cancer? Was it wasn't as much fun as you were led to believe?
So, I was taking classes. I've been in and out of college in fits and starts since Bill and I met. And
No, but go ahead.
Yeah. I take a class here or there. He's actually, I give him credit for having me finish my education.
But go on to college.
Hold on, we'll get there.
All right.
We'll get there. They got it. This is important. They need to know.
I just don't want to see you do another 8-minute, tangent again.
I have a little bit of an issue sometimes. If I feel that people are wasting my time or being pushy about what I need to do or whatnot, I'll just be like, psh, you then, I ain't doing it, and I will just walk off and leave.
Oh, that's true.
So, I had missed a credit in high school. I had moved, lived with my father for a little while, came back and lived with my mom, and somewhere in the interim I had missed a credit. I'm getting close to graduation. The school counselor's like, oh, we were just going over your thing. Turns out you missed a credit. And I was like, oh, all right, well, you know what? Whatever, we'll just fit it in. So I take this extra class, and I get the credit in, and I'm like, okay, here it is. And they're like, ooh, so we were going over it, and actually it turns out that you were missing too. And I was like, all right, frustrating, but you know what? We can handle it. I found a correspondence class through Brigham Young University. Took the correspondence class through BYU. Got that done. Went back to the high school counselor, and I was like, "Okay, here's that credit I was missing. We are back on track for graduation." And she's like, "Okay, actually, it turns out there was one more." And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is crap. You're wasting my time. Whatever. I'm done. I don't need you." And didn't graduate. A year, 2 years later, I met Bill, and he was like, well, that seems like it wasn't necessarily the best idea. And I was like,
What
anyway.
does this have to do with telling your college professor that cancer wasn't as much fun as... See, you that's my point. As I was trying to keep you online. You're going off on these tangents, left, right. And I'm like, no, just answer. I made this statement. Because you told your college professor cancer wasn't as much fun as you thought it'd be.
Yeah, actually, he's right. That was a tangent. I apologize. Might be information you might need in the future. Okay, so yes. I was taking a couple of classes towards my... Maybe
we'll get there eventually.
Got a little off topic. We're taking the scenic route,
and then we'll get back to the main actual subject, parenting.
Enjoy the ride. Anyway, so I was taking classes through one of our state colleges, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Obviously, it had more important things to do, and dropped out of classes. Well, once my treatment was all done, and it had been a couple of years and going through treatment and post-radiation syndrome, I was just exhausted all of the time. Finally got to a point where I felt like I feel like I can, I'm only like half a year away from finishing that particular bachelor's degree. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm at a point where we can go back. So I applied to go back. And they'd asked why I was out, medical reasons, blah, blah, blah. They had me submit an affidavit from my oncologist. They said they didn't want any identifying information about the disease or anything like that, but it just needed to be a letter from a physician that was like, yes, this person had a disease that prevented them from attending, and their course of treatment no longer prevents them from doing so. So I admitted that, but in addition to that, they had a series of questions I had to answer, and one of them was, why did I miss or drop out partway through my last semester of attendance, and what was I going to do to prevent that from happening again? And so I had written that I had to drop out the last semester because I'd had cancer, and not to worry about it. It wasn't nearly as fun as I had been led to believe, and I didn't see myself getting cancer in the future because it just wasn't that fun.
Great! Yay! We got there! Wow! All right. Good job, hon. All right. So, how did cancer affect your and change your perception on raising our daughter versus our son?
Well,
Back to the actual question.
Flick you. I have different perceptions for raising my daughter, for raising my son as I did for my daughter, but those aren't all necessarily just from being diagnosed with cancer. When we had Elizabeth, we were younger. Yeah, we were broke more often than not.
Oh yeah, we were poor. Busted ass broke.
Yeah, very broke. Like, Mom, they shut off my power. Can you turn it back on? Style broke. We were young, broke. Couldn't afford the rent without 2 or 3 roommates.
Yeah. And
there's just a life difference from where Bill and I were when we first started out, which was, brand new at adult life, with not a whole lot of money, career, education to my name, and where I am now, where I've got a career. I've got a professional reputation. I have actual money that I can buy things that I want, and I don't have to be like, well, do I have to eat? Food is overrated. And there's a certain amount of freedom that is afforded now. Back when Elizabeth was younger, there was just some stuff that we just couldn't do just because we just couldn't do it. And I know more. And I do sometimes feel bad because Elizabeth was raised by somebody who was kind of an idiot. I was young. I was stupid. I didn't know a whole lot of stuff. I'm surprised she made it to adulthood.
So, but you said earlier that when it came to your perceptions between working and saving and teaching everything, do you see any difference between with that mentality and how that affected your life then raising our daughter and versus raising our son? Well, now that you're more freely able to spend money, and you don't want to save a nickel, you see something you want for them, you just get it because you can.
Part of the reason why I brought that stuff up previously is because I'm not even sure where just life experience as being an older parent ends and where my changed life perception of being a cancer patient begins. I do know that I regret missing as much of Elizabeth's life, when she was growing up.
Tell me about it.
Because I
think I missed a lot more than you did.
I worked so much and, constantly trying to get that dollar, which, not that we didn't need it. We did, but, I'm still sad that I missed it. The little dude gets more of his mom now. But I'm also that perspective of quality over quantity has kind of bled over in where it's he needs me, and
he is as cute as a button too.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute. But yeah, there's, what, he needs me and I need to be there for him. And at the end of my life, he's not going to care if he was raised in a 2-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house. He's not gonna.
Or 6.
Yeah, I don't think we need 6. Settle down. We already bought a house. We're done.
That's how many we have now.
Yeah, I guess if you count the one downstairs.
Well, it's a bedroom. Yeah, they're all bedrooms. I didn't say that they're big.
Anyway,
there used to be 6 of them for 3 and 3.
He's not going to care.
No.
He's going to care that I was there with him.
He's going to care about me more. But it's okay though.
I mean, you say that, but Mama's got that.
We all know I'm his favorite parent.
You're his favorite father. You are definitely his favorite father. You are, when it comes to...
I am his favorite father.
You are his favorite father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to answer the rest of the question? I don't remember the rest of it because it's been so long since we went off on these tangents.
I think she actually had a couple of suggestions.
Okay, what was the rest of it?
I didn't make note cards or nothing.
No, what was the rest of the question that was asked?
I'm not telling you now.
Well, it's been fun joining us this week, hasn't it? Every week, it's the same thing.
The how do you balance being a parent, having a career, friends, volunteering,
wearing so many hats.
Yes.
How do you do it, Crystal?
Well,
how do you possibly do it?
Like I said before, I don't. I manage my time very poorly. I make sure I show up to work on time, and that's about it. The chances are I'm not leaving on time. As a supervisor, if we're running behind, I feel like it's my responsibility to stay and help to where we're caught up. So oftentimes I'm at least an hour, 2 hours late, but I feel like that's what it.
So how do you juggle? How do you prioritize it? Parenting, volunteering, work. Is there a priority? Like something's always going to be number 1, something's going to be number 2, something's going to be number 3.
Oh yeah, You're always going to have to prioritize, and it's always going to be work and family jostling for position number one. Family would always be number one, and in a pinch is always number one, but you got to work to feed your family. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for myself, between work, family, volunteering, and recreation. I don't know which one should I put number one. Yeah, family number one. But at the same time, though,
here comes the boot.
here comes the boot. I, me. Volunteering is very important to me. And those groups that we volunteer with, are true and dear to my heart because and that also ties back into when you got when you had cancer and they came in and stepped up and helped us out when you were ill, not only giving me emotional support, but they gave us some financial support as well, but more it helped me more in because they were financially not emotionally supportive. So it was nice to see that somebody was thinking for themselves, not thinking for themselves, and thinking about others in that time. And I really needed that. I needed that outlet. I needed someone or some place where I could go and I could talk to people who weren't going to go like, yeah, whatever, and just kind of cast me off. They weren't just there for the publicity of like saying that they helped. They really meant it, and they really did. And we've made some lifelong friends through this our volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they'd come around the house more, but it's all right. I guess you get to see a couple of them here and there, but they don't come see me. I have to go see them.
Joy was here yesterday.
I know, I wasn't here. But okay, so volunteering, wearing different hats, you juggle it, but family's always going to be most important.
No, I handle it. I handle it a lot of the same way that we handled me going through cancer. I handle it by relying on my support network. People help out. There's when we go to moose meetings, there's somebody there who helps watch the little guy while he runs around and tears stuff up. And there's Elizabeth comes with me when I'm going out. And in turn, I try to be there for other people. Help each other out. Community.
Okay. Is that the end of the questions?
Yes.
And juggling the hats? Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Whew. Difference between raising a child as a younger parent and raising a child as an older parent. Level of physical exhaustion.
Oh, yeah.
When Elizabeth was little, I could go days without sleeping. Not, forever. In fact, there was one time, my mother and I, when Elizabeth was little, it was before her umbilical cord had fallen off. We had driven down to go visit my grandmother. Got a lovely photo of my grandmother, my mother, myself. The baby girl. It was excellent. We had driven down to go visit my grandmother, and at that point in time, I had been awake.
Up or down? Which grandmother?
Over. We'd been over to visit my grandmother.
She doesn't know geography very well.
We went from a place to an additional place. We live on a freaking sphere spinning through the world. Up, down, it's relative. Anyways, we went over to go visit my grandmother.
Okay.
I had been awake at that point for like 2.5 days. We got there, and I was like, wow, I'm so wiped. Can I take a nap? Grandma and Mom were like, yeah, go ahead. Take a nap. We'll take care of the baby. We'll wake you up if she gets hungry, right? I passed out, and I slept for 3 days. I believe it was 3 days. I had no idea. I woke up. I thought it was like 5 hours later. I had been asleep for at least a day and a half. It feels like 3 days, in my head, but I recognize that's probably not accurate. Apparently, they'd just been coming in, waking me up, attaching the baby, feeding the baby, then taking the baby back away. Her umbilical cord fell off in that time span while I was passed out. I was just passed out. But again, that takes me back to community, support network. Um, People that you rely on. It's important. People have been there for me and helped me, and I want to be able to be there for others and help others. I think it's important. Um, to be, it's important to foster community.
Okay.
So that's what I would like to leave with. It's important to foster community.
In my hand here, I have 10 index cards from questions that were asked of us both. And so these cards are questions that are come from everyone. I'm going to mix them up. I'm going to give you 5. I'm going to have 5, and you're going to answer 5, and I'm going to answer 5. All right. I have no idea what order they're in. If you would like to mix them up yourself, you can afterwards. Read the question, answer the question. You go first. You do one, and I'll do one.
Question: what's your favorite thing to drink? That depends entirely on what we're doing. I love to drink tea. Currently, I'm enjoying myself a Victorian Earl Grey. It is delicious. A little bit of rose Congo, some lavender, just the perfect amount of bergamot. So good. I also enjoy beer. Currently working my way through a variety of cream ales to see which one I like the best. He drinks bad beer.
No, I don't. I drink great beer.
No. So yeah, it depends.
All right. My first question is, have you ever been on vacation to an exotic location? Have I ever been on vacation to an exotic location? Well, I mean, I've been to the beaches in the Persian Gulf. I guess.
They asked about vacation, dear.
No, I had leave. That's vacation.
Mm.
Exotic location. Not really. I'm gonna have to go with no on that one. Sorry. You're next.
Rock and roll, blues, or heavy metal, and who? Oh, there's so many more genres. Did you know there's Japanese rockabilly? It is a thing. Google it. Rock and roll, blues, or heavy metal? Heavy metal. So I'm going to yap for a little bit. When I was in high school, just starting high school, I discovered Nine Inch Nails. Trent Reznor was just beginning. His music career was just starting to take off at that time. And there is something that's actually really amazing about watching an artist grow with their craft and get better at what they do. I have a very eclectic music taste. My music my music library is full of everything from Gustav Holst to Rammstein. But Nine Inch Nails always has a special place in my heart.
My next question is along those same lines almost. Have you ever been to a rock concert? If so, who? I have been to close to almost 400. It's between 360 400. Now, the reason why I don't know exactly, and there's such a large difference between the two of them, is I don't have the concert ticket stubs to all the different concerts I went to. Now, I grew up a majority of like my earlier years of my life in and around the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, And I used to go to this place called the First Avenue 7th Street Entry Bar and nightclub. And I would go there and I would see 7 or 8 bands play in a night. And I got to know a lot of people on a first name basis. People who worked there, and a lot of the bands who played in these that either one of those two bars. And so I would go and watch private concerts of theirs and shows of theirs, and a lot of these bands didn't really go anywhere in life, but there were a few that who were started off as real oddballs, but that later on really did catch on and have a lot of success. Uh, I mean, we used to see Prince, the artist Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, or however you want to know him. And but we used to go see Prince for $7, and he would play 4 or 5 songs, and then he was gone, and then the next band would come in, and you would see like the Dead Milkmen or Guar, or you never knew who was going to be the next band that was coming in. So they would tear down the stage set, put up another one, and there'd be another band, and they'd play for 2 hours. It was just and that was where and how I lived. So I saw so many different bands play in so many different concerts over the years. So you're up next.
Guar.
Yeah. Well, we were disgusting as hell.
Question. Would you interview a serial killer on a podcast? I would not.
I would.
Bill is the one who does the podcast. I'm just the perpetual guest. And also, no. I did a large amount of research into serial killers when I was younger. You know how when you don't like spiders and they're terrifying to you, so you learn a lot about spiders so you won't be terrified of them? It's the same concept with serial killers. I was terrified of the idea that there are monsters wearing human faces, and figured if I knew everything I could find out about them, well, then you don't have to be scared of them anymore because you know everything there is about them. And I just got progressively more because there's no way to tell just by looking at somebody on the street is no. So no, I wouldn't, because that's like having an interview with a gigantic poisonous spider that just wants to eat your face. So no.
All right. Well, mine's kind of an easy one. Have you ever had a speeding ticket? No. Yes. I was Washington State. This is where we lived in Washington State. I was what Washington State considered an habitual driving offender. One day in particular, when I was living in Seattle, I got pulled over and stopped by the same state patrol officer back to back. He pulled me over. I think I was doing like 80, 85 on 405. And then I took the ticket, I wadded it up, threw it on my floorboard, and he watched me do this, and I took off, and he pulled me over about a quarter of a mile later for doing, about the same speed limit. I was just young, stupid, and I had pockets full of cash to keep on spending on speeding tickets, so I didn't really care. Yeah, I know, and looking back in hindsight, I was an idiot. But have I had a speeding ticket? Yes. Have I had one recently? Heck no. Because now I realize it's my money and I work for it and I don't want to spend it. See, we've kind of done a role reversal here, where she was the cheap one in the first part of our lives together. Now I've become the cheap one. I will find a way to save a nickel and tripping over a nickel to save more and more and more. Where she's just like, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna be here tomorrow, so I'm just gonna go ahead and spend it all for you. All right, you're up next.
So many speeding tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Question. Are you on social media? I am. Can we follow you on social media? You may. You may follow me on social media. I don't do much. My YouTube account is strictly for viewing gaming videos, but you're more than welcome to come and see my favorites. and my Twitter account is reserved exclusively for making drunken ramblings about the unrealized musical genius of the Alan Parsons Project. So, but you're welcome.
But you follow me on Twitter.
I do follow Bill on Twitter.
Thank you. All right. My next question is: do you trust your partner completely? If so, do you trust them to always do the right thing? Yes, I trust her completely. Always will, and always have. So.
That's a bad decision on his part.
All right, you're at last one.
When you first met husband or wife, did you know they were the one? No, he was an asshole. The entire time. So I actually, I was actually really good friends with his youngest sister, and he was such a jerk that she never told me she had a brother. I knew her all throughout high school. I had been to her home. She had been to my home. We spent a lot of time together, and I went to go pick up my best friend, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna go pick up Bill," and I was like, "Who's Bill?" And she's like, Laura's brother," and I was like, Laura's got a brother? When did that happen? She's like, "Yeah." I was like, yeah. He had no idea. He was the mystery sibling.
But you have to also understand, though, she may not have mentioned me because there's a lot of years between the two of us, and and when you guys were in high school, I was already gone. I may have already been in the Marine Corps at that point.
He was. That's how old he is.
So when you guys were just starting high school, I was already gone. I was off fighting America's wars, protecting oil.
And she didn't bother to say anything about him.
Well, right, and I was an asshole.
Yeah.
Too, on top of it all. So, why mention me? I don't think she mentions me today.
No, she mentioned you once. She was less than charitable. But you deserved that also, so.
Yeah, well, all right. My last question. Chocolate cake or vanilla cake? Neither. I do not like cake. I am not much of a fan of sweets, except for I'm going to die if I eat one slice of pecan pie. I love pecan pie, but it is the death to me because there's way too much sugar in that. And especially since I've been borderline diabetic most of my life. And my father was diabetic insulin dependent. It's something that I have to watch, how much sugar I intake. But at the same time, it's so good. And her mom makes the best pecan pie. And I was like, but she makes it for me. And I'm just like, oh, I want to eat the whole thing. But I know it's going to kill me. So that is 10 rapid questions. Not very rapid at all, but that was what the idea behind it was 10 questions. If you have a question and you'd like to, hear us possibly answer on the next episode, put it down in the comments, and I will read through them just like she does. We both check the comment section, and we try to answer back everyone.
I'm Teal Ocelot, by the way.
Yes, this is Teal Ocelot on the comment section, in case you guys were wondering who the hell that was. So, thank you again, everyone. Stay safe out there.